Hey everyone. So, yeah, not gonna lie, this chapter was kind of hilarious on multiple levels. The first of which is, of course, we get the reveal that Shakky was the former first mate of the Kuja pirates. In essence, making her an Amazon and a former empress. And in all honesty, this is probably the least surprising reveal of the chapter to me, because after seeing Gabon hook up with a giant like Ripley, the idea that Rayleigh's wife is an Amazon is not surprising in the least, but to me the more hilarious part about this reveal is the absolute chaos of romantic dynamics that played out here among the Roger pirates, as we find out Roger was actually the one simping hard for Shocky all the way back in the day. Well, Gloriosa was in love with Roger, and Shocky was flirting with Rayleigh on the side. And it's funny to see Rayleigh kind of be more like Luffy in that situation, and how he was initially turned off by Shocky's advances, similarly to Luffy being turned, I guess, by Hancock's advances. Yet in Rayleigh's case, still ended up like marrying her. Now, I'm not saying like Luffy's gonna end up marrying Hancock here, but it's just kind of funny in how these parallel each other in a lot of ways. Of course, outside of the romance dynamics, the other more curious thing is that little detail about Shaki being a former Empress of Kuja. Because, as the narration says, she was one of the more beloved emperors of Kuja. So, what made her leave the position in the island? Was it really just the usual thing for Amazons that Falling gave her the instinctual desire to leave, or was it another reason? Like, if I did have a complaint about this chapter, it's that it doesn't make it entirely clear as to why Shaki left. Again, I have to assume it's because she fell in love with Rayleigh, but yeah, I don't know. And she just kept pursuing him after the fact, but yeah, I don't know. It's not made entirely clear. And yeah, it is interesting to see how this chapter really established a lot of the dynamics we've heard about in passing, but this is the chapter where we see that start to take shape, you could say. Like, the most obvious one being Roger and Garp, and it's not like we're seeing anything revolutionary we didn't already see or know about before with their relationship, but I think one thing the little moments and scenes like this do add is just show the similarities they share despite being on opposite sides of the law. Like, it's one of those things where the will of D almost kind of drew them to each other, and through constant battles just grew to have respect for each other. And it is kind of funny in retrospect how that stubborn hard-headedness they share is what gave rise to the two greatest legends in pirate history. And it's especially not hard to see how things ended for Gloriosa either. Like, with Roger just constantly saying, "Who the fuck are you?" Like, yeah. Now, this chapter also gives us a full-on look at the dynamics among Rock's pirates, and yeah, it's pretty much as we've been told, that they really were just a bunch of pirates who got slapped together to form a crew. Like, it was all the way back in the day when how you basically form bonds is you basically fight each other on Pirate Island. Like it's survival of the fittest. Those who survive are the ones who kind of form bonds with each other, I guess, in a weird way. And but at the end of the day, there was still no real loyalty or shared goal among the Rocks crew, and yet it's also still interesting how, despite being this psychopath, the psychopath that Rocks has been portrayed as, the one consistent thing about the man is that he had this real, genuine respect for Herald, which could, again, in a weird way, could have been so easily seen as a weakness among his crew, and in a way it was. But as shown, Rocks himself was no amateur. He was no weakling. Rocks was the one keeping the power structure of the Rocks pirates in check. He was like the sole person keeping everyone in line, and everyone knew that, despite any grumblings they might have had about how soft he was towards the world. Like, they didn't question it either, because they knew how powerful he was. At least not to the point of starting a mutiny, because even they knew how that would end. It would end badly for them. It's also interesting to see little moments of what did cause Rox's downfall, because these little moments of what potentially did lead to Rox's downfall, because he put the thing that I find interesting about just how much faith Rox has in Herald is that because because Rox because Rox put so much faith in the idea that Elbaf and Harold would join him, the fact and the very likely fact that Harold didn't join Rox's crusade, you can kind of see what caused his downfall. Like, just I'm not saying it was solely because of Harold and Elbaf not joining him, but I can imagine that was a very big part of it, which kind of showcases that Elbaf is much more important to the world than I think it ever has been before in a lot of ways. And on a side note as well, it is also kind of interesting to see how a lot of what made Kaido who he was in Wano was kind of fomented by being a part of Rox's crew. Like, in a lot of ways, Kaido was all, like, a lot of what we see of Kaido in the past is basically a lot of who he was in the future, as well. But you can kind of see he already had a. But it's kind of interesting to see how Rox, much like he did with Loki, also he fomented a lot of what pushed Kaido to take in the actions he would much later in life. Like, it is because it is showing just how much influence Rox had on the world at large. With that said, though, this chapter does also touch back with Elbaf itself, and most of it is kind of just seeing kind of Loki ranting and raving about how Elbaf has grown weak and passive and how much he wants to set out to sea with Rox to run wild. Like a lot of what he's saying in this chapter can be construed as insulting Elbaf and his people, and it's not hard to see that. But the thing is, underneath the layer of insults, you can kind of also see a lot of it is rooted in a genuine sense of caring for Elbaf, and it's people. Like, he wants to see it thrive, but neither does he know how to properly convey that other than drawing upon what he sees as weakness of Elbaf abandoning its previous history. And the thing is, like, Loki isn't wrong, at least not entirely. Misguided, to be sure, in how he views the ideas of strength and weakness, but not entirely wrong. Like, once again, it's this arc, I think, more than anything, is really kind of hammering down the idea of balance and how you move forward to achieve peaceful ends with, and how it is possible to move forward to achieve peaceful ends without sacrificing the need to fight when the situation calls for it. And I think more than anything, that's what Loki has been trying to say this entire time. That Loki never necessarily disagreed with Harold's notions of peace, but he did feel the approach sacrificed safety and security, which frankly isn't entirely untrue either. Like, it does, when looking at what's going on in the present, it does feel like Harold's legacy, for as noble as it was also marred by optimism and not enough caution. And it's something I think Elbaf, again, it's paying the price for in the present. So yeah, I think there are definitely lessons to be learned in the aftermath of this arc. It's just how they go about achieving that balance now. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe from Blue Sky, Analyst Crunchyroll, be sure to notification bell, the subscribe button, and just shut it around, guys. Dark Knight of a nice signing off. Later, everyone.